Hi, welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. My name is George Alger. Today we're going to be talking about why watch pandemic films. And our guest expert is our director of Our Ventura TV, who some of you may know, Michelle Hoover. And she's also a pandemic film aficionado. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me today, George.
So why watch pandemic films?
Because they can be both informative and they can be entertaining. And I find for me, it's a good way to blow off some steam during this stay at home time that we have going on right now with COVID-19.
Got it. Yeah. And then in terms of watching some of the documentaries, you want to relay or convey some of the things that you learned?
Sure. I've watched documentaries that have to do with the Black Plague. I've also watched documentaries that have to do with, say, the 1918 pandemic that was going on with the Spanish flu. And I find them very interesting. So, what I have looked for in them is how did people react at the time? Um, they might be entertainment films or they might be documentaries, but they do speak to somewhat how people reacted. What did they do? For instance, in the Black Plague, I found it very interesting that they actually boarded up people's houses, locking them inside, and they would paint a cross on the front door or a red X, and they would simply bring them food so that they could stay in their house. They wouldn't be out, amongst the population. And I found that was interesting. They were doing that even back then. And with 1918 pandemic, I found it very interesting to hear them talk about how they, if they had had social isolation, going on at that point, it might have had a different outcome. And I felt that they just bring them back down to reality for me. I mean, seeing that people actually were talking about, social isolation kind of stuff even before any of this happened to us, brings it back home and makes it a little more real for me that yes, indeed, that is a course of action we do need to be taking.
Wow, okay. So the idea of isolation goes back quite a long time. Any other familiar things that you've seen in the past that are applicable now?
Well, I think the obvious crowd fear of different things when they didn't, for the unknown. There were a lot of crowd fears, and there were a lot of rational and irrational courses of action taken due to that fear. And it's today just as much an unknown as it was at the time in a lot of ways. And it's very comforting for me to understand that the unknowns are there and we're going to have to deal with them. And it is a situation other people have had to face in the past.
Yeah, good point. Okay, do you want to make some recommendations based on what you've seen?
Oh, sure. Um, so there are some films by the BBC that have been put out about the Black Plague, and those are really awesome. I will refer to my list here. There was one called The Black Plague, and that was on, I found it on YouTube, and it was a BBC documentary. And there was another called The Great Plague, a timeline, that was a BBC documentary about the Black Plague, and that one was good. I know if you go on to Amazon Prime right now, you can search for 1918 pandemic, and there are some 1918 pandemic ones that are good to watch. And there are only a couple, so that's an easy, just watch them. On that side of things. But then on the other side of things, there for entertainment. There are a range of things. Mayhem would be another film which I found to be the office space of viral films. So it's actually entertaining and funny, and more lighthearted take on the viral, a viral pandemic. So that one was kind of good. and I actually liked it. And then you've got everything in between. I mean, we've got World War Z, and we've got, you know, a lot of films like that, which are readily available, say, on Prime or Amazon, or Amazon Prime or Netflix, excuse me. And then I found an obscure one called Pontypool, which is the name of a town in England, and the entire film takes place in a radio station, and it's during a pandemic that's turning people into zombies, which was kind of an interesting film. I really liked it. That one in particular, I had to search on YouTube for, and it's only recently somebody has posted the whole film. I did not find it on either Prime or Netflix, but I thought it was a really good one, especially for like an independent film. So there's really, these films run the gamut, and I can't stress enough how many are out there. I think that my current list of watched movies is about 30, 40 films long and spans everything. Again, another entertainment film, Aerosmith from 1931. There are films throughout the decades, you know, that really speak to this. So it's kind of interesting. And then, of course, you have the classics, 28 Days, 28 Weeks, that are entertainment. But even the entertainment films have something about them that is somewhat educational in terms of watching the way a crowd functions or watching what they did. There are characteristics of their reactions that ring true to our current situation with coronavirus, COVID-19. So it's very interesting.
Very good. And the one I'm familiar with that I remember because I saw it when it came out was Contagion, and I've seen it referenced, you know, now and then recently. So did you get a chance to
Yes.
look at that one?
Yes, and it is on my list. I've already watched it. But it's one of the better known ones. Another one that's better known would be Train to Busan, which is subtitled. So you have to be into that. But there are a couple that are subtitled, which are um, actually very worthy of a watch. So they're very interesting. Yeah.
Very good. So we're just about out of time here. In fact, I was wondering if, number one, if you had a summating message for the viewers, but number two, if you have a list that you're referring to, we could actually put that in the notes below the video if you want.
Oh, well, that's very interesting. I do have a list. Obviously, I've referenced my list, and so it's there. I have a list that's not really cleaned up. I would be happy to clean it up and shoot it over to you so that you could include it. The way that I came about getting my list was simply to do some Google searches on what these films were, and then combine them into my list so that I felt I had them all. And I possibly am missing some even today. I think I do run across new ones. So, as a total message, I think different people deal with things in different ways. Some people might enjoy doing this and find that it's a constructive thing for them, while others really don't want anything to do with focusing anymore on what's going on. They're just looking forward to getting back out there and things returning to a more normal state. So I think this is a very individualized decision, to go about watching them. And I hope that I have helped some people who might find this fun. And of course, it's optional to watch in the first place, so others can simply skip.
All right. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.